Okay, lift up everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good evening. Sorry. Welcome to another parasha class, Parashat Vayakhel. Shabbat Shekalim Bezat Hashem. This coming Shabbat, it's a split parasha. Normally we have Vayakhel Pekudei together, but this week, being that it's a leap year, we're going to be reading Vayakhel on its own. Vayakhel deals mainly with the actual construction of the Mishkan. The parasha Teruma and Tetzaveh deals with the command to instruct the Mishkan, and Vayakhel Pekudei is putting it into practice. Obviously led by Betzalel and Aliav ben Achisamach. These were the two people in charge. Of course, Betzalel, taking control. We spoke about him last Shabbat. A young boy, a young child with tremendous amount of knowledge, 13 years old, to take upon this task of creating and building the holy tabernacle, the Mishkan of Hashem. It's funny when you look at the parashiot from Yitro on to now. A very interesting theme develops. Yitro, we're on this big high, and then right after Yitro Mishpatim, more and more laws, and then the commandment to build God's palace, Teruman Tetzaveh. So everything seems to be going well and right until you get to Parashat Kitisa, and then everything just spirals downhill with arguably the worst avera to ever happen, especially by a cloud, by a big group of people. It was a makkah, it was a plague. So many deaths took part. Of course, the Rashi says very famously that there's no sa'ar or yagon, there's no pain or suffering that we experience in this world that doesn't have a certain element of the Chet HaEgel. And that took place in last week's parasha. And then comes Vayakhel and Pekudei, and then we are rebuilding again. So some of them in Farsi want to say very, very cutely that that's what it is. It's when you're knocked down, when you're on a high and you get knocked down, you don't just forget about what transpired before. You get up and you start building. You start building Vayakhel Pekudei. These parashiot of building the Mishkan are super important, and a lot of discussion on why indeed they had to be mentioned. Why the construction had to be mentioned? If you already gave the command, I could assume that they fulfilled the command. But no, that's it. Just shows you the importance of what this binyan was, what this structure was of the Mishkan. The commandment to build the Mishkan, in fact, was given one day following Yom Kippur, the day after Yom Kippur. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Salachti kitvarecha, he forgave the Jewish people for the sin of the Chet HaEgel on Yom Kippur. This is after Moshe Rabbeinu went back up, after he destroyed the Luchot, and he went back up. And now we have Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat bnei Israel. Torah tells us that Moshe gathered behakel. Hakel means he gathered everybody. It was a keilah. It was all for one. This commandment starts with Shabbat, and then the building of the Mishkan. And there's very few parashiot in the Torah that use this term of Vayakhel. Normally it's Vaydaber Hashem and Moshe lemor, daber bnei Israel, go speak to bnei Israel. Well, what's the need for Vayakhel? What's the need to gather everybody here at once to give this commandment? So there's generally a rule, and the rule is that the strength or the concentration of the kapara required for a particular sin is dependent on how severe the sin was. So the more severe, the more horrible the sin was, you require a very, very strong element of kapara. So when you think about the golden calf and the Chet HaEgel, it wasn't just a form of avodah zarah. It wasn't just at the wrong time and the wrong place. It wasn't just the broken tablets that resulted in Moshe Rabbeinu coming down and doing the unthinkable and breaking the engravings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Torah tells us in last week's parasha, Vayishma Yoshua et kol ha'am bere'o, that Yoshua heard the voice of the nation bere'o, and Rashi says, "What's it bere'o? Behari'o." There was like trumpets, like sounds coming out from the camp, like a teruah, there were sounds coming from the camp. Shehayu mere'im usmechim v'tzohakim. They were merry, they were joyful, they were happy, they were celebrating. This is what was going on at this moment, a moment of jubilation. It was a moment of, you think about a moment of jubilation going on with the Chet HaEgel. So that's what caused the breaking of the luchot. The Torah tells us, Vayaret HaEgel umcholot. Moshe Rabbeinu saw the calf and he saw the drums and he saw the celebration. Vayicharaf Moshe. That's when he got upset and he threw the luchot to the ground to break them. By shaberotam tahatahar. So it wasn't just the avodah zarah, but it was the feeling that came about with the sin. So there are two types of chotim. There are two types of sinners. There's a person who sins and then he feels bad. He feels remorse. I can't believe I did this. I learned so much. I went to yeshiva. I went to this. I heard the rabbi's class, and I still did this. And I feel bad. And the whole day he's thinking about it. And okay, it's not good that he sinned, but it's a good thing that he's thinking about the sin. That he wants to correct himself. He already has thoughts of teshuvah. And then you have people who they perform averot, but they celebrate, like in this situation, and they are merry and they're acting with with happiness, and they're proud of the averot that they perform. There's a certain ga'ava that's involved in that. So people that sin that way require a stronger response than the person who feels remorse and sad. And that response had to be the breaking of the tablets. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu saw what was going on. He said, I have to break the tablets. The Chet HaEgel caused the Shekhinah to leave Am Yisrael. So now they sinned Vayakhel. They sinned as altogether one big party with invitations, come join. They sinned with all their hearts. They had a Hilula party going on with the dancing and the tarbuka and everything. Okay, so therefore, if that's the way they sinned, the tikkun has to be the same. The rectification of the averah has to be the same. It has to be Vayakhel, and it also has to be through simha, meaning that every person that is participating in the building of the Mishkan, which is acting as a tikkun for this averah, also has to be Vayakhel. And that's why the pasuk says that the kol nediv libo yevieha et terumat Hashem. Every generous person, every generous-hearted person shall bring it. And if you pay attention throughout the opening couple of aliyot in the parasha, you see this word lev being mentioned a lot. That even those building it were filled. Betzalel was built chokhmat lev. The women who were sewing the tapestry was also chachmot nashim. They were filled with wisdom. It was chokhmat lev, a wisdom of heart. The heart plays a very big central role in the building of the Mishkan. Why did it have to be? Why do we constantly see this theme of lev, of nediv lev, nesiut lev, constantly mentioned in the parasha? Because to reiterate the message, because the sin was done with the heart, the teshuvah has to be done with the heart. And it needs to show an extra level of wanting to correct yourself and wanting to build this beautiful structure, to rile everybody together for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And every donation had to be donated from the lev. And if it wasn't donated from the lev, it was not accepted. It was not, no, we don't want this. We don't want it just because you have to. There are a lot of people that you ask them to donate. I'm not into, just, okay, fine. You know what? Here, $20. Leave me alone. Well, still, nowadays, we'll take that $20. No one's going to say no. No one's going to take no. But when it came to the building of the Mishkan, if you didn't want to with your lev, if you didn't want to with your heart, then it was not welcome. Call nediv lev. And the truth is, not just the Mishkan has to be nediv lev, but really all of our avodat Hashem. All of our avodat Hashem has to be benediv lev, with wanting to do, wanting to perform, wanting to get better, wanting to appreciate, wanting to give and to be a part of the klal, whether it's our tefillah or it's our tzedakah or it's our the way we speak, the way we act, the mitzvot that ben adam lachavro, ben adam lamekom. It's all about wanting to give and accepting it and doing it with your heart. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh, in this week's parasha, notice that there's two leshonot, there's two expressions when it comes to the type of sponsors or donators towards the Mishkan. One of them, the pasuk says, "Kol ish asher nesa'o libo," every man who raised his heart. Lisa is to raise, to lift up. And then there's Kol Asher Nadeva Rucho Oto, anyone who donated with his heart. So again, every man whose heart uplifted him came, and everyone whose spirit inspired him to give generously. So the Or HaChaim asks, why do we need these two? Are they the same? Are they two different? Why was the Torah mention these two types of people? So he explains the difference. He says there is a very, very big difference between the two. One of them is a person who volunteers through his own free will. And he does everything that he can, and whatever he can afford. Nadevaruho. You need me, I'm here for you, whatever you can. I'm not going to do anything that against my will, and I'm not going to do anything that I can't do. But if you want me to donate, I'm ready to donate. I'm going to donate with my heart. It's a very good level. It's a very good level. The other person gives beyond what he can. He raises his heart to a level, nesa'o libo, he raises his heart to another level to give much more than what he can. We actually, when you would look at this guy and see what he actually gives, you would think that this person is wealthier than he actually is. Wow, this guy must be very successful, own a lot of businesses, drive nice. And you look at him, he's a simple guy. But the way he gives and how much he's seeking to give, that's nesa'o libo. So there's a mashal I read that a mashal, beautiful mashal. Imagine you have never worked with diamonds before. You know about diamonds. You know that they're valuable. You know that they're precious. You know that they're worth a lot of money. And somebody comes up to you and says, "Listen, I need you to make a ring for the king. I'm going to give you a raw diamond. I need you to make a ring for the king. Can you help me out?" So again, the guy, he's never seen diamonds. He's never seen how diamonds are made. He doesn't know what to do, where to start, what to buy, how to chisel. He is totally oblivious. And he's asked to take a raw diamond and make a king a beautiful ring. So there's two responses to this person. Number one guy will say, "Listen, I can't do it. I don't know how to diamonds. I don't know how to chisel them. It wouldn't be right of me. It's probably going to be a bad product anyways. You know what? But I'll tell you what I'll do. Because out of my love and respect for the king, I'm going to find somebody that can do this. Not only that, I'm going to make sure he gets. I'll deliver the material to him when it's done. I'm going to deliver it to the king. I'm going to help the king in whichever way possible. I'm going to make the king very, very happy. I can do whatever I can do. I can do." Most people fit into this category. I can't do it, but I'll help you in any other way. I just can't do what you're asking of me. But what I can do, I will help. That is nadevaruho. What my spirit says I can do, I'm nodev, I'm nadev. I give it to you. But then there's the second guy, which fits the minority of the people. The second guy says, "Oh my goodness, the king just requested of me to make him a diamond ring. I don't know how to make a diamond ring. So what do? I'm going to go learn. I'm going to go and learn the trade on how to become a jeweler. Okay, I'm going to go to school, and then I'm going to sit down as an apprentice next to some guy who has a lot of experience. Then I'm going to save money, and I'm going to go buy the tools on Amazon that I need to chisel diamonds, and I'm going to make the king the most gorgeous, beautiful, precious ring that he's ever seen." Now, both responses, both options, both people are good. Both are respected. Both you would consider to be, wow, chazaku baruch. There's nadeva rucho, and then there's nesa'o libo. Nesa'o libo, this person who puts it at a higher level. Nadeva rucho is, whatever I can do, I'll do besimcha. I'll drop the material off. I'll send you an Uber, whatever it is. I'll go buy it. And there's certain things that I can't. And if I can't do it, malasot, I can't do it. I just can't chisel the diamond. Hashem's response to the Nadevarucho is, I'm going to give you a beracha, chazak, thank you. I think you tried. Very good. I'm going to give you what you deserve. What you deserve, I'm going to give you. But I'm not going to give you more than what you deserve. That's not coming your way. Nesa'o libo is a guy, measure for measure. Hashem is going to give you much more than what you deserve. Why? Because look what you did. You went to school, you sat as an apprentice, you learned a trade, you bought the material, you practiced until you made me this beautiful ring. No question, the beracha that you're going to get out of this is something that's beyond what you expected. That's nesa'o libo. And those were the two types of individuals that donated to the Mishkan. Both were good. Both were accepted. You have to want to give. But there was one that was on a higher level. Those whose heart uplifted him was a nesa'o libo. About 1,000 years ago, there was a lot of uneasiness in the world that where a lot of Jews were starting to have doubts or svekot in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the way the world ran. And there was no sefer, there was no book that written by a Jewish philosopher to explain the importance of the unity of Hashem, because everything that the Jews were exposed to was foreign philosophy. Greek philosophy, of course, to probably be the number one, and you have the Roman philosophers. And Jews were tangled. Jews were at odds. And not knowing, you read a lot of these books, you go to the secular schools, this is something that they were exposed to. The Rambam, Rav Moshe ben Maimon, wrote a sefer called Moreh Nevuchim. And the purpose of this sefer was mainly to combat all the other philosophies that were around. It was the first of its kind. Never had it existed in the world something like this book. It is extremely deep. There has been thousands of commentaries on this book by Jews and non-Jews alike. And it became an instant classic and translated into many, many languages today. At the time, to compose such a book was considered, in the Jewish world, in the religious Jewish world, was considered an atrocity. There were many Jews from European lands, specifically France, and the Baalei Tosfot, the Rishonim, who were so against what the Rambam did, feeling that by composing this book, you open up the minds of many people who are not thinking of these various philosophies. And they might read the Rambam's book and say, okay, sorry, Rambam, I disagree with you, and I'm going to go and jump on the bandwagon of the Greeks or the Romans or whatever it is, and God forbid, come to deny HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It led to many, many burnings of the Rambam's books. It's unimaginable today that we would take the Rambam's books and burn them. And that's what was happening because of this. Today, you look back and you say to yourself, it's crazy. It's crazy. But at the time, it was something that was unheard of, that someone could write a book like that. Decades later, there was still a lot of, uneasiness and doubts about the Rambam himself, because people heard about what was going on. And it's said that someone sent a letter to the Ramban Nachmanides, who lived shortly after the Rambam, whether or not we should even still read his books. Should we even read the Yad HaChazakah, the Mishneh Torah, and all the other things that the Rambam wrote? Should we even follow him, or we just just block him out, erase him from our memories? Is this something that we should still listen to? And the Ramban wrote back in his letter, he goes, nobody is greater than the Rambam in his knowledge, in his chokhmah, in his understanding, in his midot, in his anava. And then he ends off his letter, Gadol benidvat kiso. He is the greatest in the giving of his kis, the giving of his pouch, of his purse. What does that mean? What did the Ramban insinuate when he said, Gadol benidvat kiso? So Avram Pam, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, Rosh Yeshiva of Torah Badat in America, he says most people, when they give tzedakah, they give tzedakah with their coins. You open up your tzedakah little pouch, and you take the coins, or you take your pocket, and you put it in the tzedakah box, or you give somebody a few dollars that's coming to collect. That's what they have. The Rambam gave the whole pocket. The Rambam gave the whole pouch. He gave everything he had, the whole wallet. The Ramban said, you want to know what made Maimonides, the Rambam, so great? What made him mi Moshe ad Moshe lo haya ke Moshe? That from Moshe Rabbeinu until Moshe ben Maimon, there was nobody like Moshe ben Maimon. He did things that were unimaginable. He saw what was going on in the world, and he said, "Need to act." He said, "We were losing Jews by the hundreds, by the thousands, to foreign philosophy, to foreign gods, avodah zarah, whatever it is, culture assimilation." This is what he saw. How great of a posek he was. What he covered. All the major poskim, Shulchan Aruch and others mostly follow the Rambam. Yes, not always do we follow the Rambam, but I would say 90% of the time we follow the Rambam. Why was he zocheh to that? Of all the Rishonim, why was it him that everyone looked to? If you read the Rambam's works, it's really, really impeccable. It's amazing what he was able to accomplish, even working as a doctor for the king and moving around the world, given various circumstances. What made it happen was his nesiut lev, because when there were problems in Klal Yisrael, he jumped in. He did what nobody else wanted to do. He gave all of his efforts, whether it was with the Yemenite community, who strongly hold by the Rambam. He single-handedly saved that community from total destruction and annihilation, because they were all on their way out of assimilation and gone, but he saved them. He gave everything of his efforts. And that's what got him. It was that nesiut lev. It was giving more than what he can. Okay, he was a smart rabbi. He could have just answered questions like most rabbis answer questions. Maybe I'll write a book. But no, it was risking his reputation. And it cost him a little bit in his life, what he had to go through. Imagine you write a book, you spend all these years writing about it, thinking you have a masterpiece, and they're burning it in front of your face. Or you're finding out that, like, what does that do to your self-esteem? What does that do to your future productions and your future publications? Why am I going to sit here and write anymore if they're just going to burn my books? But that was the Rambam. The Midrash says that not only Betzalel received the spirit of Hashem and the wisdom and the chokhmat lev to build the Mishkan, but at that moment, all the animals were also imbued with that chokhmat lev. Very strange Midrash. How are we supposed to understand something that the Midrash says, which seems contrary to how nature runs? So he says that when a person, the Midrash explains, or maybe the meaning of the Midrash is, when a person acts with nesiut lev, when he gives his all, he's not the only person being elevated, but everything around him is being elevated too. Not just the animals, but even the domem, even the stationary objects, even the inanimate objects, the tables and the chairs, and the tree. Well, okay, trees are tzomeach, but everything is now being infused with this nesiut lev. And in fact, if you look at certain aspects of the Mishkan, we see this taking place. One of the miraculous parts of the Mishkan was something called the Beriach HaTichon. The Beriach HaTichon was an amazing component of the Mishkan. It basically kept all the walls together. Think of it, you build your sukkah with walls. You need to have a running piece around to keep them from connected or from falling. So it stabilized the Mishkan structure. So the Targum Yonatan ben Uziel, in his commentary on the Chumash, explained how this functioned. That Abraham Avinu planted a tree in Be'er Sheva, the Eshel tree. And when Bnei Israel walked out through the Yam Suf, when they left Mitzrayim, the angels uprooted this tree, okay, and tossed it, and they flung it into the sea, into Yam Suf. And the tree floated on top of the water. And at that point, an angel proclaimed in front of everybody that this was the tree that was originally planted by Abraham Avinu. And it was this tree that Abraham would pray and call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help and bring Jewish souls back to recognize his oneness and his unity. So right away, Klal Yisrael saw this tree, and they grabbed hold of it, and they eventually appropriated it for the Mishkan. They designated for the Mishkan where it was going to serve as the Beriach HaTichon. This tree was 70 amot long. That's about 35 meters long. And how was it placed? In the center hole of the beams that were vertical. It was placed in the center. And miraculously, it would wound itself around the corners and connect all the beams. And then when the Mishkan was disassembled, it returned to its original straight position. This is the Beriach HaTichon, what we're dealing with over here. So how is this possible? Well, obviously, it's a nes. It's for sure, it's a miracle. But what was the zechut to have this miracle take place? It wasn't just Abraham. Of course, Abraham had what to do with it, as the Midrash says. But it was more than that. It was the people who were assembling the Mishkan. It was Betzalel and his guys and his workforce who were putting their entire lev that this is what it's going to do. We have to get this beam, and it's going to wrap around, and this is what we were told to do. This is what we're going to do. And when you place your entire lev into something, then yes, even a wooden beam becomes miraculous. Even the wooden beam can be Nesiut Lev, can raise itself to a different level. Another example is the Mizbeach HaZahav, is the golden Mizbeach, covered with a very thin layer of gold, but it was gold, very thin layer of gold. And all day, every day, there was a fire on this Mizbeach. On this Mizbeach, they would burn the ketoret, the incense. And it's amazing that of all the years the Mishkan was around, all the years of the needed a fire, smoke, and coals. How so? How is that possible? By the way, the Beriach HaTichon was also covered with gold, and yet it managed to twist with the metal. So how does it make sense? The answer is because the people who gave, the people who built had Nesiut Lev, and it had a direct effect on the Mizbeach. There's a very famous line, Devarim hayotzim min halev nichnasim el halev. Things that come out from the heart enter the heart. Whatever you put into it will affect the result. It also works with the way you speak. If you speak from the heart, you know it's going to enter someone's heart. Right? But even the things that you do, when you do it, it comes from the lev, you understand that it will affect the result accordingly. During World War II, as you can imagine, among the 6 million Jews that were slaughtered and perished, there were many yeshivot that were decimated and never seen from again. There was one yeshiva in particular that escaped Poland. And while many yeshivot were not so lucky, the Mir yeshiva was one that managed to get out in time. The story goes that they went to Vilna in Lithuania. From there, they got visas to go to Japan. 500 students in the yeshiva, visas to go to Japan. To get to Japan, they needed to take a Siberian train through Russia. And then from there, boats to Japan. But when they got to Japan, they were expelled. And eventually they made their way to Shanghai, China. This is where they settled until they made their way to Eretz Israel. As you can imagine, Polish Jews in Shanghai, China, not exactly the best living conditions or being treated as what you might think. Not easy, many decrees, very little food. I want to introduce you to a man named Rav Avraham Kalmanovitz, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. This was a God-fearing Jew, a very wealthy Jew, who supported lots of the yeshivot in Poland while they were around. At the time that World War II started, he was in America already. From America, he was trying to save European Jews. They knew what was going on. And when he heard the situation that the Mir Yeshiva made its way to Shanghai with very little resources, he sent a shipment of Gemarot, Sfarim, packages of kosher food, clothing, money. In fact, this man, Rav Avraham Kalmanovitz, had a very big impact in Morocco, where he contributed and was the spearhead of setting up many of the Mosedot of Otzara Torah in Morocco, had to do with this man, and he funded a lot of it. So he was an incredible human being. So once was asked, how was this man so matzliach? Why was he so matzliach? Why was he so successful in what he did? So one of the Rabbanim who were alive at the time, or I guess later on, who knew him, said when this man was younger, he was in charge of a small synagogue in Lithuania, in a town called Rakov. And during the First World War, so imagine he was around for both World Wars. During the First World War, again, yeshivot were forced to escape Lithuania because of the Germans. And one of the yeshivas was the yeshiva of Slobodka, another yeshiva with a few hundred students, moving from place to place, no food, a brutal cold weather, thirst. And they got to the town Rokov, literally jumping from town to town. And this Rav Avraham, who was young at the time, he set up 500 students in his own yeshiva. He made it like a 5-star hotel. Food, pillows, blankets, all meals, everything taken care of. They had nowhere else to go. This was the only place for them to survive. Again, besides for the yeshiva learning that he provided for them, but he made it a place to live. So when the great Saba Mislabotka, which was the head of the yeshiva, saw this, he gave him a beracha that he should merit to uphold many worlds of Torah. And that was to be his future life. That's exactly what he did through that beracha. And while so many people were being slaughtered, he worked day and night to save the Jews and to keep the Torah going. That's a nesiut lev. It's the ability to try and try more. It is said that on that infamous trip, when the yeshiva of Mir was traveling through the Siberia on their way to Japan, as I just mentioned, they were about to board the train, and the Russians see what's going on and say, "What's happening? Oh, we're going to Japan. How many of you going to Japan? All you people?" They figured out that they were escaping, and they raised the prices of the ticket. It was normally a cheap ticket. It was not something that was expensive, but they raised the prices, and they didn't know what to do. They had no money to pay for these trips, and it would cost at the time for 500 students $50,000. The 1930s. That's a lot of money. And there was, as you can imagine, they were short on time. This is not something that can lay around. Let's think about it for a few weeks, see if we can raise the money. They had to go. They had to get everybody across the continent, and they had just a few days to find this money and load them up on the trains. They sent a telegram to America, to Rabbi Avraham Kalmanovitz. The telegram came on Shabbat, but because it was Pikuach Nefesh, they felt they had to send it on Shabbat. And Rabbi Avraham saw a telegram come in, and he read it on Shabbat, and he acted on Shabbat. So he figured he needs $50,000 to collect, and he's got to get this ASAP. So he decides to go to a shul, and a shul with a lot of wealthy individuals, where a lot of people would come often to collect money for their institutions and tzedakah for their various needs. And he comes in and goes to the rabbi, goes, "I need to speak to the kahal, I need to raise some money." The rabbi said, "I'm sorry, you cannot address the people. We have a rule. You have to book in advance over here. You have to book in advance So we know you're coming, and we let everybody hear. There's no exceptions. Because you understand, this is not for me. This is for Jews in Europe that are getting killed. They need to be saved. This. And the rabbi says, listen, I understand. I'm sorry. The rule is a rule. We don't budge from this rule. He goes, please, 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 let me say one word. One word. So Rabbi gave in. He goes, I'm going to give you one word. And after that, if you start speaking more, I'm pulling you down. You're down. I'm taking you down from the bima. So he gets up, and everyone's looking at him, and he screams down the top of his lungs, Hatzilu. Hatzilu means save. Save them. Save them. And he faints with that word. He screams so loud, he faints on the ground. Everybody, the commotion's going on. He go and they get him back up to his feet. And he said, you're worried about me? There are millions of your fellow brothers and sisters that are being slaughtered. And the very few that survived are on their way, have to go to Japan, and they need $50,000. And if they don't get $50,000, they're toast. And by that night, he collected $50,000, an absurd amount of money in that one night. How was he able to do it? Someone who gives his all will receive more than he asked for. That's how. One word, $50,000. Nobody can do that today. Nobody can get up and say one word and receive that amount of money. I'll end off with a mashal. Imagine of a guy who rents a basement in this very, very tall building, this skyscraper, beautiful building, but he's in the basement. And he goes and he does his shopping, and he comes back and he has his bread and his cookies and his wafers and whatever it is. And he takes the bread in the bag and he puts it on the floor. Within a few moments, he sees mice coming out of the walls, wherever, and they're starting to go near his bag. So he shoos away the mice, and he picks up the bag, and he puts it on the chair. And a few minutes later, the mice again come, and he starts climbing up the chair, and they start picking at the bag to try to get to the bread. He understands. So again, he shoos away the mice, and he takes the bread and he puts it on the table. Again, within a few moments, the mice come through. They sneak their way in. They're climbing on the table. Wherever he puts the bread, the mice came. He doesn't understand what's going on. So he calls his friend. He goes, I don't get it. I'm so upset. I put the bread on the floor, the mice come. I put it on the chair, the mice come. I put it on the table, the mice come. I don't know what to do. So your friend told him, goes, you fool. You don't want mice. Don't rent the basement. What are you doing renting the basement? That's where they live. Rent somewhere higher in the building, and you're not going to have mice, and you're not going to find mice. What's the nimshal? The nimshal is a lot of people, they go through life, ups and downs, and there's yisurim, there's problems, have no money, no success, it's a tough life, and they can't understand why things are not working. They can't understand why is it that when I try, nothing really comes out. And the answer is you got to get out of the basement. Problem is, you're still stuck in the basement doing the minimum of what you're doing. Don't deal with the shtuyot and the lowly activities of life. You got to get to higher ground. You gotta engage in things that matter. You gotta engage things that show that you're lifting your heart up higher. Whether it's your tefillah or your study of Torah, the desire to come to a shiur, the desire to be kind and compassionate to your friends. That's when you can see what you're going to accomplish. And when you do that, when you give beyond what you can, when you use your heart in the donations of life, in your everyday lives, that's when Hashem will send you back in return more than what you expected. It's one word and it's $50,000. It's nesa'olibo. It's something that I don't know how to chisel a diamond. I don't know how to make a ring, but I'm gonna try. But I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna learn. And that king is gonna bless you with amazing, amazing things. That is the main theme, the main message of Parashat Vayakhel. Pay attention this week when you read and see how many times the word nisa'olibo, nadevarucho, chochmat lev, again, lev. You just see this concept of heart. The eternal structure, The future eternal structure of the Bet HaMikdash needs to be built with that, because the Mishkan was built with that. In order for things to continue and to remain upright and to remain erect, it has to be done with the heart. When we do that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses us with more and more and more. And B'ezrat Hashem, we be zocheh to everything that we give, everything that we do in life, all the wonderful things that we work on, the projects that we work on, the community endeavors that we take upon ourselves should not just be of one, okay, I can do this, but don't bother me with this because I can't. Those that push hard, those that raise the bar, those that put themselves above the bar, will see lots of success and bracha in return. Wishing everybody a wonderful night. Thank you.